Good morning,
Good afternoon.
good night, and welcome to Jazzy Conversations. I'm Teef,
And I'm Gigi.
and we're excited to be here.
Listen, thanks for checking in.
Good morning
Good afternoon.
and good evening. This is Jazzy Conversations. I'm Teef,
And I'm Gigi.
and today we have our guest, Dr. Ed Joyner. He's a Board of Education member, New Haven advocate, and activist. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button and also hit the like button. Help us grow as our show continue to grow. Doc, welcome. First of all, let's say thank you. On behalf of Gigi and I, this is Jazzy Conversations. I'm Teef,
I'm Gigi.
and welcome to Jazzy Conversations. You, Dr. Ed Joyner, Board of Education member, City of New Haven, Connecticut, New Haven activist, New Haven advocate. Thank you and welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so very
you.
much.
Doc,
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Before we start, let me ask you a question because a lot of people know you being in New Haven. Let's go back to the beginning. Where are you originally from?
I was born in a small town called Farmville. It's
Farmville.
spelled just like a farm, Farmville.
Mhm.
And it's an agricultural community like most small towns in the South were. And it really, tobacco, cotton, corn, all the agriculture projects. But the uniqueness of Farmville is that during the Civil War, there were over 11 black soldiers, slaves that signed up for the Union Army. And two of them were my great-grandfathers. My third great-grandfather, Tart King, my fourth great-grandfather, Prosmore Aycock, my fourth great-uncle, Hardy Aycock, and my two other third great-uncles, William King and, oh God, what was my other uncle's name? They were all my third great-grandfather's brothers. And most of them were mulattoes. They were their slave master's sons. So what gave me pride is that they defeated the Confederate Army. And there's nothing wrong with fighting back.
Okay.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's something wrong with not fighting back.
That's right. That's right.
And the fact that they defeated the people that enslaved them, it really helped me when I taught history, because when people said that white people freed the slaves, we freed ourselves and them. Because historically, if you hadn't had the black soldiers in the Civil War, the South would have won.
So this is an incredible history. So your ties to Farmville, I imagine it was tough even to break free from that, given that you've got such a rich history and the fabric of your family in Farmville is so strong. I mean, that's
Right.
incredible.
I will always be a small town country boy.
And Doc, real quick, because this is worldwide. Where's Farmville? Because I'm listening. You said the city, but where is that? What state?
All right, it's in Pitt County in North Carolina.
North
Pitt County is
Carolina.
the home of East Carolina University.
Okay.
And what is Pitt County known for? Well, agriculture.
Okay.
And again, that history that most people don't know about. And by the way, in North Carolina, there were a lot of white Unionists that were fighting for the North.
Right.
In fact, a few families were hung.
Wow. And these are
Because-
families from North Carolina, white families in the
White
South
families from
that
North
joined the
Carolina.
Union. Yeah.
Yeah, they fought in the Union Army. So
That is an
we need to-
unspoken part of history. Yeah.
Absolutely. People don't want to hear that.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And
right.
what year did you decide to come up north? What year did you decide to come to Connecticut?
Well, I came to Connecticut. I had been up north before because in the Great Migration, my family went from North Carolina to Norfolk, Virginia, to Washington, D.C., to Baltimore, to New York, and Boston.
The Great Migration. That's the
Great
tale.
Migration. Right. And they were in search of jobs. And by the way, some of my ancestors went to Arkansas. And that, Google that, because you'll find that they also found jobs there. It was a southern migration from the south to the south. And so in 1968, my fiance graduated from college, and I was accustomed to coming to either Boston or New York working for the summer.
Okay.
Since she was in New Haven, I had never visited New Haven before. I was working in Brooklyn on Wall Street as a messenger, not as a broker.
Wow.
But that shows you how people can tell half truths.
Yeah,
yes,
so
I worked
you
on
can
Wall
say
Street
you
at
worked on
16.
Wall Street, right?
Yeah, right. So I would catch the train and come over and see her.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I saw about New Haven was I didn't see any ghettos.
Mm.
But that's all relative. And
Right.
I don't even like that term anyway, but that's another time. So I liked the city, and I would catch the train, and she was living on Hardin Place with her sister,
Harding Place. Oh.
and I fell in love with New Haven. And the year she graduated, um, we got married. I got married that summer, and I took a job working at Community Progress Incorporated. I was a program analyst, and I wrote all the programs in Newhallville and Dixwell, the Teen Center, Opportunities Industrialization Center. And I was very young at the time, but I was going through my Black consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, no, I had been Black conscious from birth, the way
Well,
I
but
was
you
raised.
have it in your DNA. I mean, you talked
Yeah,
about your
yeah,
history. Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I fell in love with the city, and found out that I had relatives here that I had never met. She had a large family, and when she graduated, we got pregnant, and we had Monica, and I took a year off from school to work, take care of my family,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and then after that year, I was going to transfer to Wesleyan, but they didn't want to accept enough of my credits, so I went back to Elizabeth City,
Mm.
and thinking I had a year and a half to graduate, but I actually took 21 credits per semester. And I
Mm.
graduated in that year, second in the class, thankfully,
There you
Wow.
go.
and,
Wow.
and came back as a teacher in 1970 at Hill House.
Okay, so that
Wow.
was the next question. So you went into
Mhm.
education in 1970 in regards
Yeah,
to.
I majored in education because I felt like that education was the tool that Black folks needed to take
Mm-hmm.
advantage of the gains that we made in the civil rights movement.
The great equalizer, right? Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it realize itself in the people around me. I had friends that had gone to college at North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central, and places like that, and they came back. Some of them came back to teach. Some of them, did well in other areas, and I saw that the way that we could lift ourselves up would be through education and spirituality.
Mm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
when I say spirituality, I don't mean the commercial spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean a fundamental belief in that the Creator made us all, and that we're
Yes.
responsible for each other,
Amen.
and
Yes.
that we don't necessarily need a commercial space to do all of that. That we have to go out and do the work that you guys do.
Yeah.
The good work that we have to do to help people and to preserve the planet.
That's right. And each other, right? You have work
Absolutely,
preserving
absolutely,
each other. So
absolutely.
it's interesting that you talk about 1970 as the year you went into education, but you talked about all that programmatic work that you had done as a young adult. Do you feel that that tied into your capacity to teach and be in the classroom?
Yeah, I had actually started writing a book called Call to Teach.
Mm.
And when I was in the seventh grade, I started a football team of little kids. I also taught Sunday school. So I've loved teaching.
We're like kindred spirits. I'll tell you more later. This is your time, but
Okay, okay.
yes.
And so I have always wanted to be a teacher. And the people that influenced me the most, other than my
Mm.
dad,
Mm.
were teachers.
Yeah.
And since I was poor, I couldn't always do things, go places and do things that some kids who had more wealth did. I'll give you a good example. It was a tradition in my school for the highest ranking seventh grade student to lead the eighth graders in for graduation. So the year that I was the highest ranking student and all of the whole seventh grade, the principal's wife called me to her office, called me to her classroom, and she said, "You and Deborah Redden are going to lead the kids in. You're going to need a pair of white pants, a white shirt."
Mm.
And I said, "I don't have any white pants." She said, "Well, you won't lead them in then."
Wow.
So I went to my father's sister, my Aunt Vernice, and I was crying because I thought I had earned that, and I didn't think clothes should be a condition of participation.
At the young age, it
And,
must have been like 11,
oh,
12.
I was let's
Right.
see, I was 12,
Yeah.
and so my Aunt Vernice, she said, "Son, don't worry about it." She said, "You just have the highest average next year." when they declared a valedictorian or salutatorian. Now, my parents tried to get me white pants, but if you've ever lived in a small town, there are commodities that you can't get, and we
Yeah.
didn't have Amazon back then,
That's
and we
right.
couldn't
That's
afford.
right.
We didn't have the internet. We didn't have any of that.
That's
And,
right.
and so, Latif, this is really why I used to always try to help kids that were poor with clothes. So, my father had a friend, and they called my dad Bud. Bud, I got a pair of white pants that boy can wear. And what happened? His son had been in the Navy, and in the Navy, they have blue pants, they have white pants. But the thing about these pants is that I was a big kid. They were tight,
A little too tight.
Oh man.
and
Oh man.
I had a big glute, and I ain't like the way them pants looked on
Oh
me.
man. Now you
And
gotta
plus,
wait. Yeah.
if you keep white too long, it starts to turn yellow. Because his son had been in the Navy and he had just taken his uniform and stored it someplace. So when my mother tried to iron them, and they were bell bottoms too.
I knew that was coming up. I knew that was
So
going to come in
Gigi,
the story.
can you
Yes.
imagine a little black boy with a big butt wearing
Oh
white
man.
tight pants with bell bottoms in 1960,
Yeah.
1960.
Wow.
That's too much. It's too much to put on a
And
young man.
so I cried
And your,
again.
and your buddies was having a good time.
Oh,
Chocolate
oh, oh
boy.
yeah, oh
Yo, I
yeah.
will be dying.
But so she wouldn't let me march.
Yeah.
So that next year, I continued to work hard, and I was a salutatorian of the class.
Mm-hmm.
But I had worked in the tobacco fields, and I had saved my money, and I bought me a little blue suit,
Yes. Yes.
a white shirt, and a blue tie, the clip-ons.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And I had me a pair of black shoes. So I was getting ready for that.
Yes. Yes.
And of course, I ended up being valedictorian of the class. My best friend, a young lady named Deborah Redden, ended up being salutatorian. But her parents were teachers and property owners.
A little better off financially.
Much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love this story. It just speaks to your planning for that success,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
All aspects of it. You planned for that success.
And Doc,
And
you've been
Gigi, you know the beauty of it?
Yeah.
Years later, I was asked to be the keynote speaker for the county school system.
Look at that.
And they had it at East Carolina University at Minji's Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady that denied me that opportunity was sitting on the front row.
I hope you told the
Wow.
story, not to
I didn't.
humiliate her, but to,
I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't. But what I did do when I went to my hometown to speak,
Yes.
I told a story about the teacher that did influence me, Miss McPherson.
Mm-hmm.
And she was sitting on the front row in a wheelchair. And I actually started tearing up
Yeah.
because I said that she believed in me when nobody else did, other than my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm here today because of her.
And Doc, there's many young men. I was telling Gigi before you came on, I said, this man has influenced so many people from New Haven, Connecticut, young men that you've been in our lives. Think about all the football players over the years, the people that's gone on to get their doctorate like yourself. It's including myself. You've been a mentor to me, a spiritual father to me, and many others. You have your own family. You have Monica, you have Eddie, and many others. But people like myself want to just thank you for just being there. I know your background. You've also mentored one of your favorite of all time, and she told me to make sure I give a big shout out, my sister.
Oh yeah. And you know what? His mom, Latif was probably one of the most talented young men that ever came out of New Haven.
I
Wow.
appreciate that.
Yes, he's a talented brother.
he was a scholar athlete, and he was even on both sides, scholarship and athleticism. If I'm correct, he was an all-stater in track, all-stater in football, all-stater in basketball.
I wasn't all
And I
state in
think
basketball, but I was captain of basketball. So
Yeah, it was kind of, well, you should have been. And I think he was all-American in track.
I was
I think
all-American in
his-
track.
his-
I was all-American.
Dr. Joyner,
so
we
you-
graduated
and
together.
see,
we
you
we
went to
graduated.
cross.
I sure did.
Oh, she was my, listen, we were Mr. and Mrs. Senior our senior year.
Yes.
We were
I
Mr.
should
and
remember.
Mrs.
Junior,
Senior.
what's your last name?
Well, at the time it was Goborn. I am now a proud Walker, but Genevieve Goborn was my name. I was class president.
Yes, she was.
I was very active back in those
Very
days.
active.
Yes, sir.
So do you have any Caribbean relatives?
I do. Well, my family is from the islands. My mother is from Cuba, and my father is from Panama.
So Goldborn?
Yeah, yeah. Don't ask us.
Gold? No.
Goubou. Don't ask me to explain. We've
Gold.
got a colorful family history.
Yeah, yeah. And one of my spiritual sons that went to Hampton is in fact, they call him Panama when he was in college, Carlos Walton.
Oh
A lot of
wow.
people don't realize, they think that everybody from Panama would have a Hispanic surname, but
No, no, no,
that's
not
not
the
even true in
truth.
Puerto Rico or any places.
No, no, not the truth at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's pretty metropolitan. I mean, there are people that come from all over the world because they had the canal zone. So
Right,
there,
right,
there were
right.
lots of folks living in Panama in those places.
My
So,
sister-in-law is Panamanian.
oh,
Yeah,
she's my
Pan.
pasiera then.
And so, Doc,
There
my
you go.
mom, I'm sorry. So my mom came up in '66, who you know very well, and our
She's from
family.
South Carolina, right?
Yep, South Greenville, South Carolina. So when you was talking
Right,
about the
right.
migration, everyone came up. A lot of people came up in '66 as well.
Hmm.
Moving forward, it's Christmas time. Christmas right around the corner. We have to ask this question: what is your favorite, your absolute favorite holiday movie?
If I got the title right, I think it's called This Christmas,
This Christmas, okay. And
Who's in
and
that?
it
who's that?
has Chris Brown.
Yep, it's this Christmas.
Oh, my
That's a
kids
good
like
one.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
let me
yeah.
tell you why that's my favorite. Because you have the entire family rallying around a family member that had messed up,
Mm-hmm.
and and they put aside all their differences to help.
That's right.
And you got all these little subplots of, I
Mm-hmm.
love seeing black love
Yes,
and black
absolutely.
courage and black resiliency
That's
and all
right.
like that. And that doesn't mean I don't like seeing other groups love, because I believe we come from one God, one humanity.
That's
Okay.
right.
But because of what has happened to us historically, anybody that overcomes that trauma
That's right.
and comes out smiling and helpful, like the two of you, uh,
Appreciate that.
those are people that I consider in my family.
Yeah.
And so, and then when Chris Brown sang "Try a Little Tenderness," which was the
It,
original Otis Redding tune,
it's
that
amazing.
boy, that boy tore that song up.
Didn't he
As
though?
my
Didn't
grandma
he
said,
though?
he tore it
He
up.
He
tore
tore
it
it up,
up.
and Gigi
He
tore
stood
it up
Tore
for
today
it
it.
at church.
up.
Hey,
Gigi
hey.
tore it up today at church too.
I
She was
did.
at church. She led the choir today.
So
Oh,
Team
okay.
is trying to get me to sing on this
I want to hear her
podcast,
say something to the world.
and it's not gonna.
We gotta give him a little something, G.
It's not gonna happen. So,
Holy
Well,
night.
Gigi, I sang in a band called the Starliners in high school. In
oh,
college, I sang with a group called the Majestics, and every now and then, with my cousins, we'll do stuff together, and my daughter sings as well. Eddie can sing too, Chief.
What?
He's just shy. Eddie has a really, and he can play a little keyboard
I
and
love.
drums.
That's good to
oh,
know.
so we
That's
got.
good
So
to
so,
know.
Listen, you've
and if
got.
you Google Ace Spectrum, that's my cousin Rudy Gay Sr. doing all the lead songs.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness.
Okay.
So
I
we
told
have
you
we
we're
have a lot of
kindred.
singers in
We're
our family.
kindred spirits here. I didn't tell you. I
There you
used
go.
to. I used to also teach, Dr. Joyner. I was a teacher,
Uh-huh.
and I think and it taught here in New Haven, and I taught in
Hmm.
Hampton. But also, I believe your wife was my math teacher.
She
Man,
probably was, because
in
she taught me. Was it in middle school?
it was in
Middle
middle
school.
school. I was in middle school. I went to at the time it was Conti Arts
She
Magnet
was your
School.
math teacher. She
She
was your
was
math
my
teacher.
math teacher. She was
Right,
sharp,
right.
and she didn't play any games.
No, she did.
That's Miss Joyner.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
Now, Doc,
yes.
yeah. She.
how did you meet the lovely Miss Joyner?
This is a great story. So I had come back from Boston because I had taken off the system first semester,
Okay.
and I had to do that because the biological actually ripped me off. I just met him when I was 19. I gave him money. He ripped me off,
Mm.
and I had to work that semester instead of going to school. So I'm in the auditorium. No, we're in the gym, and it's like a rec night, and people doing stuff, and then at the end of the rec night you play music.
Okay.
So I love dancing. So I was on the stage playing records. That's before you had two turntables, so you had to switch each time. And I was doing this crazy dance that I had learned in Boston. And she came up to me and said, "Could you show me how to do that dance?" So I'm looking at her and said, "Yeah, absolutely." you know,
So let me just pin this really quickly. She made the first move.
she made the first move, but
Okay,
she
all right.
claims that the only thing she was interested in was learning to dance.
Well,
I said, "Well, you're the only girl I've ever known to ask me to dance." except for one girl that liked to swing dance with me. Y'all call it stepping now.
Now she gonna be watching this, so make sure that story's correct, Doc. Okay.
It is
Okay.
correct.
She gonna be watching this.
All right, so I showed her the dance. Now here's the irony. I told you I sang with a group in high school.
Yes.
My junior year, we played for her high school.
Okay.
So I'm on the stage at this club, setting up the mic and the speakers and all that, and I see this young lady walk down the middle of the aisle, and she had this thick, long hair, and she was full figured, which that's my thing. I like women. And I like chocolate. So I think I only had one light girlfriend in my life. But anyway, so I see her, and you know how you can see people you're attracted to, but you don't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, she was striking.
Yeah.
So when I go to college as a freshman, I see the same girl, because I tried out for the choir, and she was in the choir. And of course, I made the choir, the college choir. But she had this boyfriend, and he had a car. I didn't even have decent clothes to wear. And his name was George Morris. He was my roommate's homeboy. And we were in science classes together. And I used to help him out because, without sounding like I'm bragging, I was the best student in the class.
It is what
and
it
I
is.
I used to help the guys out with homework, study group, and all like that. And I'll never forget Latif. He was driving this was in 65. He was driving a 1964 Chevrolet Super Sport.
Come on.
And you're on a black college campus. You got this black dude with a car that's only a year old.
Pretty
that was
car.
one of the baddest cars of its time.
Imagine having it now. Oh my
I
goodness.
can't compete with that.
Right.
But I had a girlfriend anyway. So that next semester would have been my sophomore year. And I had to drop out. I told you guys I had to drop out for the first semester. I went to Boston to work, came back. I met her at the dance. And after she asked me to dance, I asked her, could I walk her to the dorm? And we didn't have co-ed dorms then.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That there were no such thing as co-ed. In fact, when that first started happening, I'm saying, wow.
This is different, right?
That's a recipe for disaster. But anyway, so I walked to the dorm, and I was interested in her, but I didn't think that I could make it because I barely had enough clothes. I couldn't afford to buy all my books, and I just didn't think that I had the resources. So anyway, she became interested, but then again, it seemed like she lost interest, and then she regained it.
We do that
And so-
sometimes, as women.
Yeah,
we
yeah. But
get
see,
interested
you
and then lose it.
I didn't think, Gigi, I didn't think I was. I thought she was a couple classes above me, and because of my limited material resources, but I was still the smartest kid in the room
There you go.
at that time,
Yeah.
and I had a pretty decent personality, and I was singing too in the group, and we were actually doing gigs, and that's how I could make a little money. So it was during the spring, we had Easter break, and I asked her would she stay for that Friday night because she could hear me sing because we were playing for the school, and she said no, I have to go home. My brother's coming to pick me up. Turns out he was a cop. I said, oh Lord. So I did the gig that Friday night, and then I had to go to another town the next day to do a gig for the American Legion Club. And I caught the bus back home. So I had a little money
Yeah.
from doing the gigs. But I was really disappointed because I wanted to impress her with singing and stuff. And so I went to her house. I had one of my best friends who also had a Chevrolet Super Sport, Johnny Johnson. I'll never forget him as long as I live.
Johnny Johnson.
And we were real close. And I said, man, I met this girl in Greenville. I lived in Farmville. I didn't have any way to get over there. He said, well, you can go with me. I'll take you over there. And his girlfriend's name was Shirley. And my girlfriend's name was Shirley. Shirley Ebron and Shirley Love.
Shirley Love.
So I went to her house, and I was so impressed with her family. You know, they had a nice house on a nice street. Um, she had, let's see, two brothers and four sisters, but they were only it was only her and her sister right over her that were living at the house. The other one were adults, and actually her brother was living there. He was a police sergeant,
Okay.
and he has the same name as I did, Edward Thomas. His name was Edward Thomas Love. My name is Edward Thomas Joyner.
Look at that.
So her parents liked me. I was pretty good with older people because I have a lot of respect for the elderly, and I would talk to her mother and her father. And her father was a singer, and they had a piano, so I
Oh,
could play a
there was your
little bit.
in.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You take whatever you can get.
That's right.
And I didn't have license, didn't have a car, and she would come over and pick me up. And
So needless to
so
say then that visit when you went to visit her and her family, you must
mm,
have been a big hit because you jumped right to her coming and picking you up.
Right, right,
So
yeah,
things
right.
must have gone
I was
pretty well
shocked.
that day.
I was shocked because that was in 1966, 67. It was unusual for a family to allow their daughter to go and pick up a guy in the family car. In fact, I had never known anybody do that. But evidently, her mother thought it would be okay, and that was a big deal because I would be riding down the main drag in my hometown with this gorgeous young lady, you know, driving me and all like that. And I lived behind the house on Railroad Street,
Okay.
Okay.
so you know it wasn't the best situation.
But it
And
worked
you
out.
know,
I was
if you
just about to say it all
It
worked out in the
sure
end.
all worked
yeah, it
out.
did because sometimes we can be ashamed of where we live, and I hate to say this, but sometimes people can be even ashamed of their parents
Right, right.
if they don't have all the right clothes and all like that.
And you can
But I
count
went, I
yourself
got,
out.
you're right. I got over that pretty quickly because
Good.
Good.
there's no shame in poverty. The shame is in not striving. That's
Right.
where the shame is.
Yes,
Not trying to
yes.
improve your situation. And my father who raised me was the grandson of a slave. My mother was a great granddaughter of a slave. And it takes a little time to work yourself out of that.
Yeah. Because
And
there's a psychic damage that I think comes
oh,
with
big
poverty.
time.
Right?
Big time.
It's not just the lack of amenities and material things.
Right.
There's an emotional, a spiritual
Right, Gigi.
assault, right? That comes with poverty.
Well, that is what you have to work to rid yourself
That's
of
right.
and try to change your worldview and see yourself very differently, but not to see yourself as a victim.
Right.
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 Because my great grandmother used to tell me, everybody falls down. Don't lay there and wallow.
There you go.
You got to get back up. You got to get
There
back
you
up.
go.
So, Doc,
Yes.
Keep getting
if
up.
you can have lunch with any historical figure, who would it be?
Martin Luther King or Frederick Douglass, but probably Dr. King. It would be
And
Ah.
what?
either of them.
And why? Why?
Yeah. And actually, I wish I could have lunch with a bunch of folk. The reason it would be Dr. King is because he addressed two things that are dear to me: religion and how you use politics to improve the world. And actually, I buy everything Martin Luther King. In fact, this is a book of his essays, the papers of Martin Luther King.
Uh-huh.
And I don't care how much money I have to spend. I'm going to get everything he ever wrote.
Yeah.
And the reason that I love Dr. King is because the way he interpreted religion was the same way that all of the great leaders in African American history have interpreted it. That the Creator is on the side of the disadvantaged, and that it is our responsibility to lift up as many people as we can. So he could have been a mega church preacher.
That's right.
He
Before
could have
that was
had
such a thing.
there you go. He could have had planes, boats, designer suits. He could have had all of that. But he was so obsessed with the freedom of black people and the freedom of all people that he he gave his life in the service of that.
Yeah.
And he had a much broader vision than some of my other heroes.
Yeah.
Uh, I love Malcolm, but it took Malcolm a time to get past this notion of the white man's the devil. There are devils in every complexion.
Right.
In
Which he got
fact,
there. Yeah. The good thing, he definitely
he
got
did,
there.
he did,
He
and
did.
I was
Yeah.
lucky enough
Yeah.
to have met Attila Shabazz, who's his oldest daughter,
Wow.
and Yolanda King, and I also met Bernice
Oh my
uh,
goodness.
when I was coming up as an educator. In
And
fact, I used to take
his
Yolanda out to
youngest
lunch
daughter, Doc, not to cut you off, will be on the show as well. A personal friend of mine, Malak, one of the twins. So
and you
she'll
know
also
what?
be
I
on the
don't know
show.
where Attila is now, but Latif, I brought her and Yolanda to Hill House to do a play called "Stepping Into Tomorrow."
Wow.
Oh.
So
Wow.
when you talk to her sister again,
Okay.
find out where Attila is
Hmm.
and what she's doing, and ask her does she remember her sister when she was an actress.
And she'll be watching this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. And her mother was a best friend of a dear friend of mine, Sheila Evans Tranum, who was the deputy commissioner of New York State Board of Ed.
Mm.
When they and so her mother, Betty Shabazz, was working at Medgar Evers, and I ended up being a consultant for Medgar Evers to help them with their teacher prep program.
This is I did not know
Yeah,
that. I'm getting an
yeah,
education on you today.
yeah.
I mean, you
And
have been
this was,
saturated in sort of civil
mhm,
rights and progress of poor
mhm,
people and black people, and this is incredible.
yeah. And
Mm.
I'm glad you know her. Did you meet her in college?
No, we've met over the past, I'll say, 10 years through the school
Okay,
system. And we kept in
right.
contact, just kindred spirits. We started speaking.
Hmm.
She loved my name, asked me my background because of my
Yeah.
name.
Right,
And
right. Latif. Yeah.
right. And it started from there. And she was like, let's keep in contact. And we've had a
Hmm.
friendship ever since. So,
Yeah.
Well, see, if I were to have another person at that table, it would be Malcolm,
Mm-hmm.
and they both were courageous in their own way.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of the things I liked about Malcolm is that, and by the way, his book inspired me more than any book I've ever read.
Wow.
okay.
What I like about him is that he realized that all men and all women are brothers and sisters,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some people who still don't realize that, and they're notorious. You see them all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And he also realized the consequences of him outing Elijah Muhammad.
Right.
Mm.
There was some
And
real there was a lot of courage that
yeah,
it took for him to do and
right,
say the things that he did. And I think what's
absolutely.
amazing even about both of these folks that you selected, and I think there's an issue that we have in our culture. We choose a hero and we want to
Hmm.
make a statue out of them. Like they were just
No,
this one thing all the
no,
time. But the
mm-mm,
two that you've chosen, both in Malcolm and in Martin, is that these are two men that we got to see the progress of their thinking. You know, we got
right,
to see the
right,
progression in their ideology,
right,
which is that's a
right.
gift to us to say you don't have to be staunch and pick a position
Hmm.
and stay that route.
No,
We have
no.
intellect and we get to change and grow. So those are I think
That's a
I'd like to be at that lunch.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a bit a great way to put it. I
Mhm.
read someplace once that some people are dwellers and some people are seekers.
Yeah.
Dwellers are born into an ideology and they stay there. They
Mhm.
don't want to hear anything outside
Right.
of here.
Mhm.
Seekers are always questioning
Mhm.
and they tick people off
That's right.
because they're always asking why,
Mhm.
how come,
Mhm.
and all like that. And so, in Malcolm's case, he was such a righteous human being
Mhm.
that there was something inside of him that was saying, "Wait a minute, hold it.
Made
This
you
doesn't
think, made
sound
you
right."
listen deeper,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. And
Doc,
Mhm.
then he was brave enough to act on that righteousness.
Mhm.
And in Dr. King's case, if you read his primary source materials, you'll find out that he was not the staunch literal interpreter of religion
Mhm.
that some people will try to make him to be.
Yeah. You're
He
right.
had a much broader sense of that. In fact, it's a little bit like what Victor Wooten said. Victor Wooten is a great jazz bass player.
Mhm.
He said, "God is too big for any one culture."
Hmm.
wow.
Hmm.
Doc, I'm going to hold you right there. I just got queued up. We have a few more minutes. Hold that thought. Thank you so much. Before we end this segment, I have 3 questions to ask you. Very important. The first one is, what's your favorite 3 podcast shows? Very important.
Well, this one,
There you go. Interview over.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and let me tell you why. The reason I went into teaching, because I thought that gave me the best chance to produce 2 people like you.
Oh,
Very kind. Very kind.
In other words, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
that's right.
Let's look at it this way. Latif has 2 daughters
Yes, I do.
and a wife.
Yes, I do. Beautiful wife,
Now-
Doc. Beautiful. So beautiful in
Yes,
there.
she is.
She's
She
watching
is,
this.
she's beautiful plus.
Thank you.
And she's beautiful 360, inside, outside, side, front, back, the whole deal. Now, you're beautiful, Gigi.
Thank you.
That's my girl.
My husband thinks so too. If
That's
he were
right.
here,
Well, you
my
know
girl.
what? Like you say, you got that beautiful round shaped head, and that Hershey bar, as Richard Pryor said, skin look like a Hershey bar. That's the character, sweet chocolate brown. And so you got a black man that marries a black woman that produces 2 beautiful black daughters. So you took one person that could actually be a geometric progression. Let's say his daughter's married 2 beautiful guys, whomever they are, and they have kids.
Doc, we have a question for you. Okay, very important question. 3 favorite podcasts. What's your 3 favorite podcasts?
Number 1, Teef and Gigi.
There you go. There you go. We
there it
appreciate it.
First of all, y'all are good looking and you're smart and you ask really deep questions.
We appreciate that.
And you're in a good group, because the second favorite one is NPR.
oh wow, we're good. We're in good company.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the third one is New York Times.
Oh, okay.
right.
Okay.
And actually, the reason I like you guys is because you're dealing with issues that are germane to the survival of our culture. And you're not just dealing with name brand guests. It's kind of a grassroots all the way up.
Absolutely.
That's right.
That's the goal.
It all matters, and we all matter. That's right.
Absolutely. If you think about it, every single person on the planet matters.
That's right.
And so I just think that, unfortunately, in our communities, there's too much Facebook journalism, too much Twitter journalism,
Yeah.
and there's too much stuff that tries to pass itself off as knowledge that's really propaganda.
Right.
And folk get upset when you challenge it.
Yeah.
And that's sad. I mean, you should not be allergic to truth.
Yeah.
And the reason I like this is because both of you guys, you have the personality to deal with controversy. And you're not in your face.
No.
You basically, there's an old saying, we should seek first to understand.
That's right. That is the first objective.
Right,
And what
to
you said
understand.
earlier about being a dweller and a seeker, right? And I love that framing,
Yeah.
because I would like to consider us seekers, right?
You are.
Expanding knowledge base.
Couldn't
Yes.
find a better
Absolutely.
partner. Couldn't find a better partner. Couldn't
Oh,
find
yeah.
a better partner.
Yeah.
Love G.
No doubt.
Doc,
No doubt.
you're a singer. Three favorite groups of all times. Your 3 favorite groups.
Okay, so I'll give you my groups. I have solo artists too. God, I just love so much music. And if you ever need music, let me know. I can make you anything you want. I would say my first group that I fell in love with were the Impressions.
Oh.
Now, you guys may be too young for them, but Curtis Mayfield and Jerry Butler were the lead singers.
Absolutely. I
And-
love them.
Right, and I like harmonies.
Okay.
So that's why I like them. It was a trio, and a lot of the groups that I sang in were trios.
They were
Because
trios,
they
and
only do
that
3 chords
three-part
and a
harmony. Yes.
Right, 3-part harmony. Then I got a bunch of groups that pop in my head: the Temptations, the Spinners, and the Whispers.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But I like Smokey Robinson and Miracles as
All right,
well.
you
As far
cheating.
as
You
solo,
cheating now. You cheating. We asked for three. You
yeah,
cheating.
I know, it's
You're
hard, it's
cheating.
hard
Cheating.
because if you come over the house and you look at my iTunes, I got about 45,000 songs, and I got
Wow.
all these playlists,
Yeah.
and so really in music you got melody, you got lyrics, and you got rhythm. So I like ballads, but I like to dance, so I like rhythmical songs.
Okay.
And the reason I don't like some music is because of vulgarity in the lyrics. I've always thought that black artists should use their art to uplift, inspire, and motivate.
Yeah.
And so if you listen to Curtis Mayfield singing We're a Winner, never let anybody say we can't make it because the feeble mind is in our way.
That's
No
right.
more tears we'll cry, we finally dried our eyes. We're moving on up. Lord have mercy, we're moving on up. Or if you listen to Marvin Gaye, ask, what's going on? Or Stevie Wonder, Love's in Need of Love Today.
That's right.
That's deep.
That is
That's
deep. That is deep.
Deep. Right. And then almost anything that came out of the sound of Philadelphia, because Gamble and Huff were trying to change the world with their music. Barry Gordy was trying to make money. And you probably can do both. It actually took Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder to push back against Barry Gordy to make What's Going On, the Ecology album, Marvin Gaye, and Stevie Wonder's Full in This first finale.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't want to do that because he was trying to make music that would sell a bunch
Right.
and cross over and all other stuff. But Gamble and Huff started out trying to use music that would wake people up, wake up everybody,
Yes.
that would
No
inspire
more
people.
sleeping in bed.
There you go. And if you look at the OJs, they started there. And that's another one of my groups that I love. And that song, The Love of Money. And then Backstabbers.
That's right.
I asked you
You know?
3 and you done gave me 27.
Listen,
I
that's
appreciate it.
Listen, you asked
But you know, I talk like
a
this.
man who loves music, right? He's self-proclaimed. He loves
Doc
music.
done
You
gave me
opened
27 different people.
you opened Pandora's box, and I'm getting to listening. I love it.
Okay, Doc. Now listen, you're a New Haven activist. You're a New Haven advocate. Here's my question for you. What is misunderstood about Dr. Ed Joyner? What is misunderstood about Dr. Ed Joyner in the city of New Haven, Connecticut?
Well, the people that know me.
Correct.
But then there are people who don't care to know me because of two things. They don't understand my views about religion,
Okay.
and they don't understand my views about politics, because there are some people who look at things through a black lens. And I try to look at things through a historical lens,
A more
and
global
through
lens.
a global lens and a human lens. Like I got in an argument with a guy. I was buying a car, and I don't know how the question came up about gay rights, but I said, why would anybody want to harm a person because of their sexual orientation? Why is that any of our business?
Right.
Correct.
And then he said to me, are you gay? And I said, no. I said, but if I were, that would be nothing. I said, I'm married, happily married. And I was being nice because I got angry when he said that. And this dude trying to sell me a car too. And I said, it just doesn't make sense to me that somebody would harm, denigrate, malign a human being because they don't understand that part. And the same kind of guy was misogynistic because he felt that women should be underneath men. And if he saw you, Gigi, he couldn't see your beauty because he would probably think the women should have long hair
Right.
and that they should be lighter and all that other kind of stuff. And I'm just saying, you're a sad guy, man. I didn't buy the car, by the way.
Good.
In fact, Tiff, you know I got a little bit of a temper.
I do know.
So I said, and I said, don't sleep on gay people either. There's some gay men that will kick you behind.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
I said, so don't be walking around with that stereotype in your head. In fact, I don't even think he can handle RuPaul if it were straight up. but that's people don't understand that because they think it's a contradiction of religion. And we can be a very conservative community when it comes to stuff like that. And then, of course, with politics, that oftentimes you expect it, if you're black, to support the black candidate. I'm going to support the righteous candidate.
Right.
And that's because of my historical lens. I know that William Lloyd Garrison, that Valo Liuzzi, that Joyner and Goodman died. Well, at least three Joyner and Goodman, Liuzzi, died in the service of the freedom of black people. And I remind people that of those 3 civil rights workers in Mississippi, 2 out of 3 were Jewish. And James Chaney was black. And that in the Civil War, that there were white abolitionists, John Brown.
That's right.
Who died in the freedom of. I also remind them that the people that first sold us into slavery in Africa were people that look like us. Those are facts.
Yeah.
So is it about a person's soul, their spirit, or their complexion?
Right.
Depending on who you asking, I
Right.
guess.
And Latif, look at who your coach was in high school.
Oh, yeah.
That man would die for you.
All 3 of them.
Look, I was at Pete Barbarito's funeral.
Absolutely.
That was my book. That was my guy.
That was my guy. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I don't like that. It's a contradiction of the idea that we all came from the same source.
Yeah.
And the first people that ever breathed or walked God's earth were dark-skinned people in East Africa. So everybody's African, whether they want to accept it or not.
And then it sounds like also what I hear you saying is that an injury to one is an injury to all. And so until you feel that way, right, you keep segmenting people. And by you, I just mean people that just don't embrace a global way of thinking, right? But you should be offended when there is injustice, regardless of who's the recipient and who's the perpetrator. You regardless if you recognize a similarity in one or the other. But an injury to one being an injury to all seems to be like a unifying theme that I hear you saying.
In fact, Gigi, if you ever heard of a poem called "No Man Is an Island," that poem says that.
Yeah.
You know, each man's joy is joy to me. Each man's grief is my own.
Yes. Yes.
And Jesus said, "What you do to the least of my brethren, do you unto me." And Confucius taught the golden rule 500 years before Jesus. And that's why Martin Luther King and Malcolm X would be the people out, because they came to that conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they realized that there are angels and devils across all kinds of people.
That's right.
And so, my father, more than anybody, my mother and father taught me that there's bad and good in everybody.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And the worst thing you can be is be a hypocrite. That you talk about the splinter in your brother or your sister's eye when you have a beam in yours.
Beam in your own. That's
Beam.
right. That's right.
You know,
That's
so
right.
so I just think that you can sleep at night and that you can walk through the world feeling pretty good about yourself when you judge people one at a time.
That's right.
And instead of trying to make generalizations about people because they're poor, short, tall. In fact, one of the greatest sub-courses I ever taught was a course on prejudice. And I got a chance to do a lecture Monday night at Sacred Heart to the teacher education majors about prejudice and racism. And one of the things I said was that if you look at, you remember a movie called Hotel Rwanda?
Yes.
One
Yes.
of my favorite. One of my
indeed.
favorite.
Don Cheadle, I think, started
Yeah,
that one.
Cheadle
Yeah.
was a guy.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of how it's not about color.
That's right. The Tutsis and the Hutus, I think.
Yes.
And then in
Hope I got that
Nigeria,
right.
in Nigeria, you had the Biafran conflict. You had the same thing in Liberia. You had the same thing in Rwanda. You had the same thing in Uganda.
Listen, Dr. Joyner, we have the same thing in New Hallville. And
Yes,
come on.
I was going there.
yeah.
So in other words, every relative of mine that was murdered by a person that looked like them. My sister was shot by her husband. She wasn't killed, thankfully.
God bless.
You know, but she died young as a direct result of that. She was 32 years old.
Wow.
My 2 nephews were murdered they weren't the best people either. And in every single case. So when I was a principal, I used to try to tell the kids, stop blaming other people for everything that happens to you, and look first within yourself.
Be a seeker, right? Seek beyond what it is that you've been
Right.
told outside of that
Absolutely.
paradigm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
And don't
we have been
So-
so fortunate to have you in
Absolutely.
the schools and interacting with our kids. That for me, I believe that is, and you alluded to it, that is generational work, right? The seeds that you've been able to plant, that goes into the hearts of the young children, and then they're raised with that. They'll raise their children differently because of their experience with you. So I want to make sure that I don't lose this opportunity to thank you for what you have planted in this community.
Well, thank you, and thank you, and Lateef. Again, I always, when I try to help people understand how important individuals are, I said, let's use the magnification principle. If we had 100 Gigis and 100 Lateefs in New Haven, what would this community look like? We had 100.
Wow.
Now, what if we had 500? And then you can look at it from a negative standpoint. All it takes is one menace to society
Yeah.
to terrorize a community. Look at that guy that they're looking for now that cut his child up.
Oh Lord.
Look at the things that you and I know. Every one of us knows somebody personally that was at the wrong end of a gun. A knife. We also know that some people die from self-inflicted wounds. I've had so many young men that I tried to help.
Yes, you have. You've helped a lot. You've helped a lot.
And they still go out there. And I said, look, bro, you know what road you traveling on? I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. Next thing you know, I look in the paper. It's another funeral.
Yeah, another funeral.
And I'm talking about family members, nephews,
Far too
nieces,
many.
and in some cases, a brother. So I don't know all the answers because I don't know all the questions.
That's right.
Doc-
Start with the questions.
I'm sorry, G. So what we're going to do now, we're going to wrap up, and we want to thank you again, like Gigi said, for your time. We know what you tell us what's going on with you now. Actually, what are you doing now? Are you writing any books? Are you doing anything that you want to share with anyone or any businesses?
Well, yeah, I'll be 76 in May.
Ooh,
Looking good.
yes, looking good.
A lot of,
And still work out too, huh? You still work out?
Yeah, in fact, I did a kettlebell and goblet squats and all that yesterday.
There you go.
What I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to do as much as I can to help my wife because she was struggling with cancer, as you know. And you were very helpful. You and your wife were very helpful during
I
that
appreciate
process.
it. Appreciate it.
I helped my daughter with her child. My daughter adopted a newborn.
Congratulations.
And my son, he just remarried, and I'm trying to be a good father-in-law to his wife and a good
Great.
father to them. And I'm trying to keep myself preserved as much as possible because I'm realistic about longevity.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed to live as long as I have lived. And I told somebody I want to die healthy.
There you go.
I don't want to be laying around wasting away.
That's
And
right.
somebody. And then I got a couple of nephews that are really getting it together and trying to be as encouraging and supportive of them as I can. And then some older people in the family that are even older than I am. I want my brother-in-law to feel like he's loved and that there's always a place he can go get a meal, watch a game, that kind of thing. And my younger great nephews and nieces to sort of support them. And then do as much as I can to try to help the city through my work as a school board member.
Yeah.
And as a person in the community that's not afraid to call out stuff. And to
Truth
kind
to
of
power.
Yeah. So, and I appreciate this opportunity because this was straight up righteous. And two people that I love and respect because I think you fall in love with archetypes. If you meet a righteous person, a fair-minded person, a courageous person, that if you're that way yourself, or you're trying to be that way, then you can't help but be, like you say, kindred spirits. And I had a chance to do a project with Maya Angelou.
Oh, she's one of my favorites.
Well, you are a lot like her.
That's a
lot.
compliment. Wow.
And you know, Doc, honestly, Gigi's been this way since high school. She was our class president. Remember, you didn't know she graduated with us, and she was class president and went straight to Temple, straight out of high school. Not 10, 15 years later, 18-year-old, went straight to school.
And you went to
and
the right
graduated.
school.
Yes, I did.
Because I worked with Margaret Wong at Temple. And I was there a lot. And my cousin Audra, I think she got her doctorate from Temple.
Was she working with Leap at some point?
She was at one point, yeah.
Yes, I knew her. She was a force.
Yes.
Absolute force.
And she's from Peak County, North Carolina, where all those
Yes.
soldiers came from. So she's come from. And of course, who was it? Malifi Asante? Who was the professor of Black Studies at Temple? He was the Afrocentric idea.
He actually created one of the founders and creators, the thought creators of oh my gosh, this is the worst. I hate to be put on the spot like this. My brain just draws a blank. You said it, Khalifa Asante.
I think his name was Malifi.
Oh gosh, it was Asante. M something Asante. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if he's still alive, but I had a lot of respect for him. I'm not a cultural. Yeah, here you go. Malifi Kite Asante.
Yep.
And the book that he wrote was The Afrocentric Idea.
Yeah.
And let me see if he's still living.
Yeah, big shout out to Temple University. And
Temple
big shout out to the
University.
University of Findlay, Ohio.
We had a lot of folks from New Haven that were there.
Yeah, I remember when Lateef went to Findlay.
That's right, baby.
Findlay was one of those abolitionist schools.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just like Wilberforce and all like that. So he
We have a lot of people from Ohio tuned in right now, so big shout out to Ohio.
Yes.
yeah, right. Findlay was on the money.
So Doc, listen, you came a long way from Farmville, so I tell you what, if no one ever been to your back deck, they'll understand you came a long way. So Gigi, we're gonna have to get Gigi on that back deck someday.
Yeah, from an outdoor toilet.
Oh my goodness, have one of the best backyard decks.
Oh yeah. Well,
around.
I'll just await my invitation, Doctor.
Hey, listen. When the weather gets good,
Yes.
I'd love to have you guys over.
Well, this year, to let Gigi know, we'll be
Right.
we have our huge fundraiser going on in July, so she'll be there for that.
Yes.
Okay.
As you know, Doc and I are doing a fundraiser. I think I
Yes,
spoke to
you
you
told
about
me.
together
Yeah.
this year, so that'll be a big one. And
I'll be
so
there.
she'll be there.
That's great. That's great.
Well,
I really
listen,
appreciate
Doc,
you
we're not
guys.
going to hold you. I'm sorry. Is there anything else you want to say before we end this?
I want to say that I love you dearly,
We
and
love
I
you.
just hope that we can produce more young people like you guys, and to develop a platform so that more people can hear this, hear what you do.
Thank you
Because
for
we need
that.
a movement. We need a movement,
Yes.
and an internal movement.
Yeah.
Because we've knocked down a lot of the barriers. Now we got to educate people so they can take advantage of it.
That's right. Oh, I love you. Thank you for saying that. So much love. Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you.
This has been such
Doc, this
a
was
pleasure
great.
and an honor.
Give my best to Miss Joyner, Monica, Eddie. We love you. Thanks for supporting Jazzy Conversations with Teef and Gigi. I'm Teef.
I'm Gigi.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Take care, Doc.
Thank you. Take care. God bless.
Well,
God bless.
God bless. Well, we thank everyone for tuning in. That was Dr. Ed Joyner. We had an amazing conversation.
Yes, we did.
I hope you enjoyed it and that you stay tuned in for the next conversations with Teef and Gigi.
And please subscribe. Please press the subscribe button, press the like buttons. We want to continue to grow as a platform. We need your help, so please help us out. Thank you so much. Jazzy Conversations, I'm Teef.
I'm Gigi.
Take care.